Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you'll hear stories about people who think they can do whatever the heck they want because they feel like they're above everybody else, and that rules don't matter. Guys, I hope you're having a lovely day today, and in this episode, you're gonna hear 4 stories. So the first story is an absolute insane one, where OP deals with people who trespass into his yard. The second story, a Karen learns real quick that she can't park wherever she pleases. The third, OP gets a Karen fired, and we'll finish off with a super satisfying story where OP deals with a last-minute customer. My friends, I do hope you enjoy these stories today, and do hit that subscribe button for future stories. So for some background, I'm a combat veteran and a school teacher, and at this time, my wife was a school teacher as well. So I bought my first house 12 years ago. It was in a lower middle class neighborhood with a lot of working class families. My house had a pool in the backyard, and my parents bought me and my wife a hot tub as a housewarming gift. So 2 weeks after moving in, we found a stranger and 6 teenage kids swimming in our pool when we got home. We call them entitled mom, entitled daughter, entitled son, and the others I assume to be their friends and or boyfriend. The entitled daughter was about 18 or 19 years old, and her brother was about 17. When we told them to get out and get off our property, the entitled mother told me that the previous owner gave them permission to come over whenever they wanted to swim. I explained to her that I was the new owner and that I wasn't okay with it. I told her that not only do I not know them, but there's a legal liability for me if they got hurt. She yelled and fake cried and saying I was a bad neighbor. I was being selfish and forcing her kids to sweat in the summer heat. She told me that if they died of heat stroke, it was my fault for not letting them swim in my pool. I told her to get the F off my property and to never return. So fast forward 2 weeks. I had put up a no trespassing sign on my property in multiple spots and had gotten to know many of the non-entitled neighbors. They were great and told me to ignore the entitled mother and her kids. Now, I start to notice that when I wake up in the morning, there's evidence of people using my pool and hot tub at nights when we were asleep or away. I find beer cans, cigarette butts, and even used condoms. I figured it has to be the entitled mother and or her brats. I install security cameras on the grounds and start videotaping. Sure enough, I catch the entitled daughter and a few others hanging out in my pool on Friday nights when my wife and I are out. Friday nights, we usually go to a friend's house for movies and wine, so I figure they must have been waiting for us to leave so they could throw a mini party or were quietly swimming while we slept. So I discuss it with my wife and decide to teach the entitled mother and her brats a lesson. So next Friday night, I park my car a street over and my wife does the same. We wait in the dark house to see if any of them come over. The entitled daughter and her boyfriend, the son and his girlfriend, and 4 other teen couples come right over and start to skinny dip in my pool and my hot tub. They have beer and I can smell the weed from inside my house. I wait about 45 minutes for them to really get into their fun, and then I spring my trap. I burst out the door with my rifle pointed at the ground, but ready. When I reach the pool, my wife flips on the back lights and I yell for them to freeze, or I'll shoot. My wife calls the police. Meanwhile, they all have a deer in the headlights look on their faces, and not one of them tries to speak for a good minute. The entitled daughter starts to tell us that she has permission to be there and that we need to let them get dressed. I tell them that if they move towards me or their property, that I would consider them to be charging me or reaching for a weapon and I would shoot. They must have believed me because they froze. One girl even begged me to give her her clothes while she was trying to cover her breast with her hands. Not being a total jerk, I say I'll throw them all their clothing. I then walk over to their piles of clothes, phones, and purses and throw everything into the pool. They freak out trying to save their phones and the other goods. After 10 minutes, the police show up and they have the kids climb out of the pool, wearing their soaked clothes and trying to shake their phones dry. I show the police the videos from my cameras, the no trespassing signs, and explain to them that I had told them and their mother that they were not welcome on my property ever. The kids were arrested for trespassing, possession of controlled substances, underage drinking, and indecent exposure. The police recommended that next time I leave the gun in the safe and just let them come get them. I told them that I thought they may attack my wife and had to stand my ground. I even showed proof to the officers that I never pointed it at them with the videos, so I couldn't be charged with anything. As the kids are being loaded into police cruisers, the entitled mother shows up yelling at the police and my wife and I. She demands that the police let them go and even tries to open the door on one of the cruisers. The police threatened her with being arrested if she doesn't back off and leave my wife and I alone. I later found out that the charges against the teens were reduced. They all got community service, fines, and were put on probation. We got a restraining order against the mom and her brats, so they couldn't bother us again. I even sent a bill to the entitled mother for the cost of draining, disinfecting, and refilling my pool and having a professional cleaning service clean up the kids' mess. The bill was for about $400. I had my parents' attorney send it to the entitled mother with a letter stating that if it was not paid in 30 days, then we would sue for a larger amount. She paid, sent a check to my attorney, and thankfully, it didn't bounce. About a year later, the entire entitled family moved away and we never heard from them again. Guys, what an absolutely crazy story. I have no idea what it is, but apparently there's so many people who love to break into other people's yards to use their swimming pools. Now guys, I don't live in an area where I have a swimming pool, but for you guys who do own pools or know others who own pools, does this really happen? I'd really love to know. So, I ended up ruining someone's day a while back over a little sign that reads, "No parking, loading zone between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., Monday to Friday." I was delivering to a strip mall. The place doesn't have a rear delivery area, so by design, there's blocked off areas on the side of the complex to allow delivery vehicles, garbage, and courier access to unload during the day. The place also has a medical center next door. The medical center charges for parking, and the strip mall doesn't. So cheap people will park and walk over, even though a multitude of signs saying you can't do that are plastered all over the lot. So the complication is that the loading area is closest to the medical arts building. It has parking lines laid down, but is signed no parking. Loading zone between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Dozens of cube trucks use this lot daily for their needs. However, it's not often that a full-size semi, me, has to use it. Now, I need every inch of that lot to position properly so I can get the freight off and on my merry way. Often I'll arrive and there's a single car or two occupying a space. They're a bother but can be negotiated around easily. On this morning though, I roll into the lot and a full-sized Escalade pulls in behind me and parks right beside the loading ramp and in the one spot that absolutely ruins my approach. There is literally 50 spots in the loading zone to choose from, and like over 100 spots in the actual parking lot. I roll down my window and motion that I need to use the ramp. Now, most self-aware, self-conscious people would get the hint. You see a truck that needs to unload its stuff, you see that you're possibly blocking its access, so you move. Now, most people would realize that. Most people. Nope. Mrs. Self-Important, aka Karen, decides that she's parked. Y'all can deal. She unloads her booger ears into the stroller and obviously ignores me and flips me the bird as I'm protesting her parking choice. Before she pops in the door, I give one last, "Great example you're setting for the kids, lady." And that once more earned me some shade and an obscured middle finger salute. Fine then. I have nothing but time on my hands. I called the towing number on the sign, and they say they're less than an hour out. I then called my store contact who spotted my reversing, and he also called the towing company to complain. With an extra pair of eyes, I placed my truck inches from her back bumper, I snapped a couple of cell phone pictures for liability coverage, and then started to unload. Then karma came calling, self-addressed to Mrs. Self-Important. A compactor garbage truck came through to empty out the mall's bins a little over to the right of Karen's parking spot. After some eye rolls from the garbage truck driver, the empty bin miraculously managed to end up blocking her only path of escape after my tight squeeze parking. Oh crap. She's hemmed in now. So I got a crew of guys unloading me, and we're all anxious knowing that things might take a turn south. Finally, the fruits of our labor ripen. The tow truck arrives, looks at the situation we've created, and is nothing but laughs. He's snapping pictures of the mess. He dollies the wheels of the Escalade and slides it perfectly out and onto his flatbed. 10 minutes later, and he's gone. Security arrived during the tow out and remained. Sure enough, 90 minutes after leaving, Karen's returning from the medical center with Rugrats in tow. She goes from 0 to 100 in an instant. She demands to know where her car is. One of the guys unloading me hollers, "Oh, the one blocking the ramp? It's towed. It was towed over an hour ago." Her phone is out in an instant, videoing us, claiming harassment, theft, damages, etc, etc. She's on 911 in a flash, accusing us of stealing her car. Security quickly intervenes and in the most professionally condescending tone possible, explains to her how the tow-away loading zone works, and gives her the contact for the company who towed it. About a half an hour later, the region's finest in blue show up and take over. I give a quick statement and the officer basically says, a civil matter. She ends up relenting, defeated, and a taxi's called. I wrap up unloading my truck under her annoyed stare. So I'm rolling out and on my way, and I get a text from my dispatcher saying, "Are you stealing people's cars now?" My friends, there's nothing like a satisfying story where justice is served. I really love the stories where people think that they can park wherever the heck they want without consequences. It would have cost that lady nothing to have moved her car a few spots over. But she decided to flip OP the bird, acting all high and mighty. Guys, I want to say I hope she's learned her lesson, but entitled people always seem to just keep doing them. So, I used to work at this restaurant in the downtown city. It was a terrible job experience, but it was a job. So one day, we get slammed. Our burger place is right behind a baseball field, and teams often come over after a tournament. Now, I'm talking about 100 players with a line out the door. On shifts like this, some of the kitchen staff had to drop everything and help the front of the house employees, including myself, deliver orders, because we're taking orders, cleaning tables, putting orders together, delivering them, serving drinks, and making milkshakes. Now, the customers were great. All of the players that came in were so nice, and we had no issues. No impatience, no complaints, nothing. Just a nice day. They tipped us nicely as well, so we really appreciated that. Now, I should probably mention at this point that we take DoorDash orders, which is where Karen comes in. We get in our usual rush, and me and 3 other coworkers are obviously multitasking and rushing to keep everybody happy. The DoorDash tablet goes off with an order, and I confirm it and start putting the order together. Mind you, this included a milkshake. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and make the milkshake ahead of time, because God only knows when this woman's going to show up to pick up the order to deliver it. The rest of the order's good to go, and she shows up while we're helping other customers. Now, let me tell you about this woman. By definition, she's a Karen. She had the typical Karen haircut with the eyes of a freaking White Walker. She starts getting impatient and asks me how much longer it's going to be. I apologize and tell her that it won't be much longer, and I gotta go start the milkshake. Now she starts flipping out at my coworkers as I'm passing her to get the DoorDash order. She starts laying it on me. She's screaming at me because I didn't have the milkshake ready, and that I was a stupid idiot who should be fired, and I was costing her tips. Now this woman was wearing Lululemon yoga pants and had expensive color contacts in. She would be fine without a $3 tip. She's throwing a fit at this point, so my manager comes out to talk to her. She doesn't accept what he's saying and starts screaming in front of 200 people about how she won't get tips, blah blah blah, and how hard is it to make one milkshake. She also called him a coward about 5 or 6 times. Karen finally leaves. So I'm fuming at this lunatic coming in and making everybody uncomfortable, so I do a little digging. Now, it turns out that if you go into the tablet, you can find the previous DoorDashers who came into the restaurant to get orders. I remember the name of the customer who ordered, so I go on the tablet to find the DoorDasher's name. I find her name and cell phone number on the order history and information. I get into contact with DoorDash and explain the harassment we endured from Karen and gave them her name and contact number, saying she was from this city. They tell me they'll look into it. They contacted me later to inform me that she was taken care of, and we never saw her again, as she regularly took orders from us. We all went on our merry way, and occasionally, we called each other cowards as our own little inside joke. So, I've been working at a Subway restaurant for the past 2 years, from the end of high school through my first year of college. Now, I take classes in the morning and afternoon, so when I work, it's usually a closing shift. The only issue is I close by myself, so it really toys with my anxiety whenever I get a rush or can't finish certain duties by a certain time, etc. So by the end of the night, I'm usually so out of it mentally that I just want to get home ASAP. So tonight, I was closing like usual. I really wanted to get home as early as I could to finish an assignment due at midnight. So of course, with my luck, it turns out being one of the busiest nights we've had in a while, because they recently sent out coupons for a BOGO. So by the time 10 p.m. rolls around, I'm finishing up the dishes, cleaning the line, counting the bread, wraps, bowls, etc., and I go lock the door. As I'm turning off the open sign, a guy walks in and I tell him, "I'm sorry, we're closed." He wittily responds, "Then how did I get in here?" I respond, "I was walking to lock the door right now. You have to leave, sir." And he said, No, I want a sandwich. Now, at this point, I'm just thinking if this guy's ballsy enough to tell a business worker to stay open after hours because he wants service, then I don't know what he could do. So I decide to make him a sandwich just to make him go away. He proceeds to take a good 2 to 3 more minutes just staring at the menu, and oh my god, I was fuming. I make his sandwich, and then we move to the point of sales cash register. I go to put in the sandwich, tell him his total, and he pulls out a $50 bill. Holy crap. I get so excited because we can't accept bills over 20 bucks, and I pray he doesn't have any other method of pay. I tell him the bad news, and of course, he gets angry saying that I have to break it anyway. I literally could not give him proper change for the 50 bucks because I just dropped most of the money into the store safe. I explain to him as I slide the sub to the side where he can't reach it, and he just leaves in a fit of rage. I proceeded to then take that sub home and eat it while finishing up my assignment and turning it in on time. Honestly, if he wasn't such a commanding, entitled idiot, I would have just given him the sub and told him not to worry about it. But if you're gonna force me to do my job past our posted hours and be a dick about it, you're not getting a break. I love how OP just slides the sub out of the man's reach. Poor guy went home hungry that night. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. My friends, if you enjoyed the stories today, do hit that thumbs up button. And if you missed the last episode of r / entitled people, an entitled dude refuses to move his truck and he learns a very, very expensive lesson. My friends, check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.